fast, too forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This is episode 445, Fast 5, Lap 16. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe, too, and this episode is brought to you by Brazilian Classic Cars. Founded in 1997, importing a wide range of products from China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Italy, and the United States, they started a new line of business in 2015, exporting classic cars made in Brazil. Shout out to Brazilian Classic Cars.
Well, this is Brazil, and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. With us tonight to talk about Fast 5, we have an entertainment industry reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Ben Fritz. Hello, Ben.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So you were the author of an article that came out a couple of months ago now that we talked about on the podcast about the financial reality of the Fast and Furious. And it summed up the vibe that we are getting from all of the lack of news about the next movie, that like things are a little tough in Hollywood right now. I just don't know how many movies in general there are that Hollywood feels comfortable throwing $200 million at. Like, I think there were only 5 or 6 last year at all. And like, it feels like we're in a very weird sort of trepidatious time. So anyway, before we get into too much detail, I'd love to learn a little bit more about like what your beat is at the Journal, how you landed on the Fast and Furious thing, if you pitched that, if that was thrown to you, and just sort of where you fall with the Fast and Furious.
Sure. So my beat is covering just the entertainment industry, broadly speaking. So that's movies, that's TV, that's streaming, that's short form video, that's theme parks, everything that, you know, the entertainment business here in LA and the companies from Silicon Valley that are invading LA are doing. And which I love, because I love movies, I love TV, I love, you know, entertainment, and I feel like the industry is so fascinating. And if you understand how the business works, then you understand why we get the entertainment that we do, or maybe in the case of this franchise, aren't getting the entertainment that we want. I came upon this story. It was myself. I pitched it. I can promise you there are no senior editors of the Wall Street Journal who were thinking about Fast and Furious. You'll be shocked to hear. And it's for a very simple reason. I was just like looking at the studio's movie slates this summer, looking at what Universal had, and I just somehow had this thought where I was like, when did the last Fast and Furious movie come out? Like, I just wasn't sure. And I checked, and it had been 2022, I believe, right? Is that right?
Yeah, right after COVID. Yeah.
Right. Fast X came out, or 2021?
No, 23. Well, 9 was in 21, 10 was in 23. Yeah.
It was 2023. Right. So that's what occurred to me. And then I was like, there's no movie this year. Then I just started looking back, and I was like, there's been a Fast and Furious movie in every odd numbered year for more than a decade, right? Always. This is the first time there hasn't been one. And then I was just like, oh, that's curious. I wonder why that is. And I just started doing a little bit of research. You know, I saw that Vin had promised these release dates that, you know, didn't come true. Then I started talking to sources. You know, it's my job to know agents and producers and studio executives. And I asked the studio executive who was in the know, let's just say, like, hey, how come there's not a Fast and Furious? And the person just told me, I don't even know if there was going to be one, honestly. Like, the last one cost so much, it basically made no profit, and we can't do that again at the same price. Like, it's got to be a lot cheaper, and I don't know if we could do it cheaper. And I was like, wow, there might not be a Fast 11. Like, they might not conclude that story that started in the last one. Like, that's a good story, and that's what got me digging into it.
Yeah, there was, and I'm not sure if you know from just like being on your beat or whatever, but right before COVID, when Hobbs and Shaw came out, like before that even hit theaters, they're like, we're doing a Hobbs and Shaw 2. There were all these like plans for like future movies. And like you were saying, you know, every other year, or Joe was like, we were both talking, but Joe had this idea, like, maybe we'll do like Fast and Furious in odd years and like Hobbs and Shaw sequels or spin-offs in like the
We were
even
thinking
years.
they were going to pick like a Marvel type situation, right? We're trying to get one every summer. Like, that's what it looked like they were projecting to do.
Mm-hmm. All this talk about one, like with it's only the ladies of the Fast and Furious, or maybe there's going to be like a or like whatever. Like, there's all these things they keep talking about for the last, like, since they like started making $1 billion a movie for 2 movies or whatever. There's like, we need to monetize this. And then COVID hits, and F9 gets delayed, and Hobbs and Shaw gets unsequeled or whatever. And we're like, oh. And so now we've been in this period for, you know, the last 2 years, where really for the last like year and a half, actually 3 years, right? But the last like year and a half, 2 years, where we're like, what you just said, we don't know what the future holds, which is a little exciting for us because we're like on the cutting edge of whatever, but also we want another movie.
Of course. Right. Yeah. You were left on a cliffhanger. People want to see where this ends. I will say this, guys. I've continued to report since my story came out. I don't know for sure, But I see strong indications. I think there will be another movie. Like, I do believe it's going to happen. I don't know. I mean, obviously, the earliest it could happen is 2027 at this point. Because,
Which feels so far. I mean, I know that's only next year, but it feels crazy considering where it was quote unquote supposed to happen.
Yes, it will have been 4 years, but they've been. I mean, the point of my story, as you know, is not that they've given up, but that they're working really hard to find a way to make the next one cheaper and make it more appealing to modern audiences, because the franchise has clearly has lost its way creatively and gotten too expensive.
So we've been talking about this because like we actually, one of the things we do is we just track Vin's Instagram, right? Because he's very vocal about like all of these like projects that he says are moving, that we always question if that's true or not. We think that he's been pitching a lot of spin, like even before your article came out, we were reading between the lines and he was saying like, we're going to go back to basics and like, we're bringing it back to LA and stuff like that. And we had like a hunch that we're like, I have a feeling this is the studio turning down the faucet, right? You know what I mean? Like this feels like he's pitching now that he thinks that there's going to be like, he's giving it a good spin to make it seem like it's a positive thing, but in reality it seemed to us like he came to them and they were like, look, we're slashing this budget, you can't go 50 different countries, you can't do all this shit anymore. And so like it's, and you're also not the first person to tell us recently that you don't think that this is coming out anytime soon, if it does come out, because like it's just like, we would have stuff coming out already of just, them in production or something that isn't just Vin's Instagram saying that they're going to come out eventually.
Right. Well, I think I don't know what's in Vin Diesel's head. It's very hard to imagine. It's
a lot of wonderful stuff, Ben. I can tell you
sure.
that much.
Yes, right. Yes, I'm sure it's all rainbows and sunshines. But you're definitely right that if you wanted to spend another $340 million, which is what the last one costs, that's not happening. So that means fewer visual effects. That means less travel around the world. But it's also true that I have never spoken to Vin, but I've talked to other people close to the franchise. They're all very aware that, like, part of the reason why the movies aren't making as much is people think like all this stuff around the world and the spy missions, and most infamously, of course, them going to space, which Donna Langley, I'm sure you saw, like she made fun of at the Toronto Film Festival recently. Like they know that that's not what Fast and Furious should be. And they also know creatively, like to get this franchise back to what people love, they need to go back to their roots in actual street racing. So there's both a creative imperative and a financial imperative to take things down a notch and get back to the street.
I have a sort of a basic question I'm sure I could just like find on Google. So if a movie costs, theoretically, like Fast 10 cost $378.8 million, according to Wikipedia, how much money is Universal looking for that to make to say, like, that was a successful movie? Because, like, I know that the rough rule of thumb is, like, you maybe double that for marketing or whatever, so you're looking at $800 million just to sort of break even, or the same thing with Avatar, like, if it doesn't make $3 billion, it's somehow a failure. Like, if a movie costs $378 million to make, what is Universal, like, rule of thumb looking for that to return to be like, you know what, that was worth it, let's do it again?
Well, first I should just know, I mean, my reporting was that it costs more like 340, but whatever it is, it's obscene, right? So
let's say 340. Let's say 340.
Let's say yes. So typically it costs that for production. It costs another 100 to 150 for, they call P&A, which is prints and advertising, which is just prints is distributing the movie to all the theaters, and advertising is of course all the advertising. So let's say for Fast and Furious, that's getting you up to a cost of $500 million to make and release this movie. Typically what studios are looking, the simple math they say to get the return they want is you just triple the production budget. Because that's their ideal. Because then depending on where you release it, whatever, you're typically making ballpark 50% of the box office is coming into you. And then of course, you'll make some more money from, that means you'll make some more money from home video and streaming and whatever. And that's all great. And of course, but they want a real profit. They don't just want to make a tiny profit. Like They want to make more they want to make more money than if they had just put this investment into a bank account, right? They want to make a real profit.
Fair point.
So, right. So, which is why they typically, if you gross triple what you spent to make the movie, you're usually in good shape. If you're grossing less than that, if you're grossing between double and triple, like you might make a profit, but it's not a very good investment. If you're making less than double, like it's a bomb.
That is so crazy. So, like, not about Fast and Furious, but like, do you know what the magic number is? Because I know that James Cameron has said if Avatar 3 does not do well, he's going to have a press conference for 4 and 5. And I know that it's sort of like like what's the number they're looking for Avatar 3? Do you know like what ballpark they're hoping for that? Like that crazy expensive.
Avatar is tough. Nobody knows the exact budget of Avatar. I know Avatar 3. I know it costs more than 400 million.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say 500 million. Like just that could be a little high. That frankly could be a little low. That would mean you're looking at like 1.5 billion, right? Mm-hmm. And that is like just about what it's going to make. So, which means it's going to do fine. Like it's definitely not a flop, but it's not a mega hit. It's sort of like a moderate success is what I think you can call Avatar 3. And the first two were obviously mega hits, like, hugely profitable for Fox and then for Disney. This one, it's like, was it really worth the effort? I think is the question that both Disney and James Cameron have to ask themselves, especially if you look at it and you say, well, if the first one grows 2.9, the second one grows 2.2, the third one grows 1.5, like that's a bad trajectory.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if they're going to do another one, they have to either have some reason to believe it's going to do better or they have to make it for less money. And,
right. Which I don't know that you can with those movies.
I don't know. Well, yes, I don't know that you can unless you're really willing to reduce the scope and the ambition. And then, what's the point of going to an Avatar movie? It's not going to blow you away visually, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas with Fast and Furious, you can just make a movie that's set in LA with like a smaller cast and fewer, A-list stars, and all of a sudden it costs $150 million to make. And then if it makes 500 million,
100%. Yes, that's exactly what everybody involved realizes now. Like you should be able to make these movies cheaper. And then, you gross 400 or 500 million. You should be happy with that. You should be happy with that much money for a street racing franchise.
Right. So I looked up the budget by film. It went from 38 million to 76 to 85. This movie you're talking about today jumped to 125. So it was a big leap. And then like basically 200-ish, then 220-ish, then 260. Then Hobbs cost 200. Then 9 cost 200, 225. And then 10 cost 340 plus. Yeah. It's crazy how it escalated. And then it made over $1 billion twice. 7 and 8 both made over $1 billion. But then it's just, again, like what you're saying, it's sort of dwindling returns. So anyway, let's put the money aside for a second. What is your history with the Fast and Furious franchise? I know that this was one that you wanted to talk about. I think there's an interesting financial angle here too. But just in terms of like fandom, watching these movies, what is your history with Fast and Furious? Which ones have you seen? And if you also have your rankings for us, we'd love to get those.
Sure. So I've seen the original and I've seen 5 through 10. So I haven't seen 2, 3, 4.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes. So the reason is, I would say in the 2000s, is for whatever reason, it never appealed to me. I was never particularly interested. Fast 5 got on my radar. I was working at the LA Times and I was talking to the then new heads of Universal Pictures. And they started telling me about their plans for Fast 5, which is a business reporter I found incredibly interesting, which were, Universal at the time didn't really have any big franchises. They didn't have anything that could remotely compete with Marvel, which was coming on the scene, with Pirates of the Caribbean, with Mission Impossible, Transformers. At least all of a sudden, it was becoming clear that the movie business was all about worldwide franchises, big global franchise films that could gross high 9 figures or even gross $1 billion. Like other studios were doing it. Harry Potter, I didn't even mention, right? Universal didn't have anything that was doing anywhere close to this. They had keyed in on Fast and Furious. And as you guys know much better than I do, the first one was successful for what it was. The second one did okay. The third one barely came out. The fourth one, then it was sort of on the upswing again. Yep. So they had reason to believe that, there was some energy and excitement behind this. And they very intentionally made a business decision that they were going to expand the scale. And they were going to try to take this street racing crime franchise and turn it into an international heist movie. That didn't happen because the writer or director came in and was like, I have an amazing pitch. That happened because the studio and the producer were like, how can we make this bigger? How can we get it out of the United States? How can we give it more scope? Now, sometimes you think this, studio manufacturing leads to bad creativity. That's often the case. But I was very curious to see Universal trying to manufacture a global franchise as something that didn't seem like it could be. And then I went to an early screening and I was like, holy shit, like I think they did it. Like this is a good movie. This is an incredibly entertaining like action heist movie. And then of course they did pull it off, and that movie was hugely successful and launched us into everything we've seen with 6 through 10.
Yep.
And so to me, it's both like a fascinating business story for me as somebody who covers the business of entertainment, and it was like a surprisingly fun, action heist movie that I was very skeptical when I went into.
It's a movie and a franchise that we are fascinated by for many reasons, but also it's something. There's something special about the way that they are so sort of open about the manipulation of like, we are going to bring in stars from around the world to like make that country go see the movie because like they have some pop singer that they love, and so we're going to put this pop singer in the movie. And there's something that's so like money grabby about it, but they're so shameless about it. Just like, yeah, like we're doing it. And like they're successful at it that like you kind of just have to admire it.
Yes, and I think they've managed to pull it off creatively where it like that, and you can sort of feel they're aware of it, but it doesn't feel heavy-handed, and it doesn't feel like they're trying to pretend to be anything that they're not, right? So you're like, yeah, okay, now these guys are suddenly like dragging a safe through the streets of Rio, which if I describe it to you, it's ridiculous, but they're having so much fun. And with a bit of a wink, and that's really what impressed me. And another thing that impressed me, which is very relevant to what you're saying, is these movies are so intentionally diverse, right? But it doesn't feel like they're just pulling in a black friend or something. It's just they're effortlessly diverse at a time when Hollywood's always like grappling with the diversity issue, and it's like never been a problem for this franchise. It's just been there, and they purposely put it in because they know that's the audience they appeal to, and it just works. And I also love that about the movies, I have to say.
So you've seen more of the movies than I thought. When you said you hadn't seen most of them, I was surprised. I was expecting you to see like 2 or 3 just here or there. So with that in mind, you've not seen 2, 3, or 4, which on average rating are like, we love 3
on the lower end. Yeah,
3's like a very polarizing movie, but 2 and 4, generally speaking, of the original like sort of pre-COVID movies, are 2 of the lesser ones. So if you ask the average fan, they're probably saying you're not missing much. Okay. But you have your rankings either from favorite to least favorite, or bottom up if you want to like let the mystery sit, of the Fast and Furious franchise.
Sure, yes, I did think about this, and sort of different. A simple formula, which is, since 5 is my favorite, that's why I'm doing it here.
Okay.
And and I love the like, they're outlaws, they're pulling crazy heists, and the Paul Walker's part of the family, they're all together now. So I would like, my top 3 are 5, 6, 7 in that order. 7 is where it starts to get a little shaky for me because they start to move from criminals to working with the government, right? Then that's sort of the transition movie. So that starts to get shaky. Then I'm going to go back to 1, which is like very, it's a different movie. It's, what can I say besides it's like Stacey Snider described it in my article as like short shorts and fast cars, and right. And I went into it with that, watching it with that. Now, I mean, I watched it way after it came out, and I was like, it's not impressive and edge of your seat like I think Fast 5 is, but like it's really fun for what it is, which is what the Fast movies are great at their best. And it's fascinating to be like, I can't believe they went from this to what it became, right? So it's fascinating to watch. And then we'll just say, for me, once they started working for the government, like it really like lost its sense of like fun and a lot of its appeal to me. Like then it just started to feel very forced of like, okay, now we have to come up with some crazier mission for them to do, and the plot mechanics behind it just seemed like they didn't give a shit anymore. Like they were not even in the like they weren't having fun, and you could feel that in like the plot started to feel both tired and preposterous, and also the actors are increasingly not having fun, and you could see it on screen. So that's why I say 5, 6, 7, 1, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and but Fast X is just painful.
To flip that, I like the positivity of it, that like now you're giving me optimism that maybe if they do strip it down, maybe if they do cut the budget and they have to go back to like something more simple, that we might get something really good in 11 if it ever comes out, right? Like if they kind of like they don't have as much pressure to make so much money. Yeah. Like even with a reduced budget and like cut down stuff, like we might get a better product out of it, and that gives me some optimism.
I really hope so. I think they know that's what they need creatively. It's a great, it's the financial pressure is there. To me, the questions are, can they do that while still, actually resolving the plot from Fast X Part 1, which doesn't exactly leave you on the streets of LA, right? And number two, like, can these actors who are getting old and are to a large extent doing these movies for the paycheck at this point, like, can they bring like the fun and energy and excitement that they were having in the early movies to it? Like,
that's a good point.
That's what I'm sure about.
We're in a place where we love all the movies. We want to be positive about the movies. Like, I feel like there's enough podcasts out there just to snark on movies that we don't need to do that here. But the farther we get from like the last movie and maybe not having closure, even though we are all fingers crossed that we're going to have another movie and have some kind of closure or whatever, the more I just sort of long for the earlier, either shorter or simpler, or like movies like this, where it's like every scene sort of has a purpose. It's not like, hey, like we just need Roman and Ramsey and Tej to be on screen, so they're going to go they're going to hang out with Pete Davidson for 4 minutes. It's like, well,
why?
There's no reason for that. And here it's just like every scene moves things forward, and like people are either together or separate because they all have a mission. And it's like the simplicity of that, and just like literally like what a movie is, like how to make a movie, like have a scene, have a purpose, other than just like, hey, Pete Davidson's here.
Oh, we still have Charlize Theron in, and also the cast getting so huge, right? It's like so
huge, yeah.
And I was also thinking about, like, I know that you don't like 9 and 10 as much as the other ones, and I agree, I don't like them as much as the other ones, but I feel like in both this one and 9, Justin Lin is trying for something. Like, this one's all about fatherhood, and 9, there's like the sins of the father and like going back in time and the parallel things or whatever. And I'm just like, I wonder if we're ever going to get that again. Like, knowing End of the Runway or whatever racing metaphor you want to have, like, do we have anything, like, is the next movie going to be artistic at all, or is just like, here's a thing to wrap things up? Like, I wonder where we're going to wind up.
That's a great question, because I do think even like the biggest budget franchise movies, when they're good, they're about something. They don't have to be about some really sophisticated, complex idea, but they have something to say, even if it's just like, fatherhood and family, like, right, which Fast Five does. Like, it's woven in, and I think that's good. And that's an interesting, I hadn't thought about the sins of the father stuff in Fast 9, but I think that's a totally fair props to give it. And yeah, like Fast X clearly isn't about anything. And if just besides just existing, and if they could find something, and it feels like if they're going to bring it back to LA, then there's a lot of opportunities to make it about something. If the movie overall is getting back down to its roots, then if they could integrate that theme into the plot of the film, I think that would really resonate with audiences.
Because there's like, we want things where there's like emotion and there's depth and there's character quirks and whatever, because like that's what we talk about here. But also, like, if the bar is just like, try for something in like a blockbuster movie, like the bar is low enough that like you can clear it with that much effort. But we're deep enough into this where it's like, how are you going to literally pick up from the cliffhanger of a movie 4 years ago, maybe at this point, where 4 of your characters are supposedly dying in a plane crash, 2 of your other characters are down a dam that's blowing up, and like there's a submarine now with Gal Gadot, and like it's just like, how do we solve this in a movie that doesn't cost $400 million?
Well, my prediction, then I know nothing about the movie creatively, I will say this is not based on recording. My prediction is they're going to do some hand waving to get through that as fast as possible in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
I was fearing of,
But don't you think it's like, if we want to get back to the streets, you can't spend half an hour really diving into the submarine plot and shit, right? It's like,
you can't.
If they want the movie to be something different, they got to get to it as quickly as possible. So they are going to, and you want to save money, don't spend a lot of time at that dam and in the Arctic, right?
Do you think, on sort of a similar note, do you think we will ever see Kurt Russell again, or is he just gone?
Good question. My again, I don't know for sure, but one way I was talking to people, I was like, how are you going to save money in the next movie? Like, it's not just effects. Like, the above the line costs, meaning just like hiring everybody, and is like well over $100 million for these movies, like before you shoot a frame of film. So they got to bring that down. So they have to have fewer actors in it. Or somebody was saying to me, look, we know the fans want to see everybody, but maybe some of them are just have like a cameo, like they're just in it for a minute or two, right? So Kurt Russell may be a good example of that. Like, just like a nod to him because the fans care, but like don't make him a part of the plot, which means you don't have to pay him millions of dollars. You just have to pay him a little bit to work for like 2 days.
So this 11th movie is going to be the return of Leon and Suki, and it's going to be Devin Aoki and whatever, not Matt Schultz who plays Vince, who plays Leon, but just like 2 actors making like $250,000 each, and like it's a Fast and Furious movie for $2 million.
Well, can I ask you guys a question when it comes to doing stuff cheaper and
Please.
smaller? Because we haven't talked about this, and I think this is very relevant to the future of the franchise. What do you guys think about these ideas for doing Fast and Furious television shows? Because I will say one thing I picked up on my reporting, Universal is very serious about doing a show for Peacock. Like, I think that is going to happen.
We've pitched that.
Oh,
we've pitched that on the show a million times over.
I honestly
been
can't
like,
believe
give us
it hasn't
a whole,
happened.
we're like, give us a whole like Han and Giselle spin-off show, or give us a Letty backstory show. Anything that you want to give. Like we were saying, there's so many ideas that we could do and make it a Peacock 8-episode. You have 3 or 4 of the characters, maybe.
Yep.
And like people pop in, you get Vin at the first one, right, or something like that, and I think it'll work, right?
Yes, I think so. And I think that's totally right. There's so many stories you could tell there. There's so many different, like, not totally random genre, but like sort of genre adjacent stuff they could do with it. You know, it doesn't have to be the genre that Fast and Furious purely is. And I think, honestly, they'll be more creatively interesting if they don't have to have all the people in it. Because as you guys know, every big star in it comes with a lot of demands and a lot of difficulty. And Vin is obviously number one on that list. So if you don't have like Vin Diesel or Dwayne Johnson or Charlize Theron in it, it's easier to do something creatively risky, I think.
It's things like, we talked about, this one's about fatherhood, 9's about sins of the father, but like there's so much about family obviously in these movies, and like we've never heard one word about like Vin's mother, like the Toretto mother. Like there's so many things that like I don't know that the average fan would super care, like somebody who's just like flipping through Peacock and like trying to grab their attention or whatever. But for people who are into the franchise, you could do some kind of thing like Joe's saying with like 1 or 2 actors that we kind of know and have Vin Diesel pop in, be an executive producer, have his name on there, pop in like once or twice like he did for Spy Racers, that animated Netflix thing, and just tell a story that like fills in some of the gaps. Because the more this spreads out, the more the tree sort of branches. You can do whatever.
Yes, totally. And then when you start to see which of those resonate with people, that can sort of give you ideas for where to take the film franchise in the future.
And also could like backdoor sort of start into like a reboot or whatever, where you have like the next generation, or if not a reboot, like the next generation, like you have, Vin's like Dom and Letty's kid or whoever.
Yes, nobody knows what that's going to be, but yes, the people, I will say, people at Universal, I mean, everybody in this franchise is sort of desperate to get past the current cast, because they're so expensive.
I'm sure.
And they're so expensive and they're so demanding. They make production so difficult. If they can find a way to get to a place where they're starting with young actors who are, fresh faces and cheaper and easier to deal with, that would really reinvigorate the franchise in so many ways.
You need the quarterback on a rookie contract, right? Like you need that thing to build
around.
You
do.
Yes.
Do you think, in terms of money, I was just thinking about this movie in particular, in terms of Fast 5, do you think it's weird that the crew that we know as like the greatest thieves in the world that have saved the world over and over again, that their biggest heist was only, quote unquote, only $100 million? Like it feels like back in 2011, that was real money. Like that's when $100 million meant something. But it feels like, do you even had a $1 billion heist yet? Like it feels, in terms of the financial element of it, Ben, like that is sort of your beat.
Yes.
Maybe not the heist beat, but the money beat. Only this time watching, because we were talking to you, it seemed like, this seems low. That's
fair. I mean, I do. Here's what I was thinking at the end of the movie, and maybe this was less true 15 years ago, but like, they each get like $9 million. Like, that is a lot of money, but that's not like I'm buying one of only 4 cars that exist in the world, and I'm hiring highly paid escorts to go with me everywhere I go at a beach out. Like, that doesn't actually last you a lifetime.
If you're living the next movie that Roman buys a plane.
Living the high life. Right. That's actually, yes, right. That's actually, if you're buying a plane with $9 million, like you don't have much left.
No.
That is a very fair point. And yeah, it's a lot of money to pull off, but does it put you in the annals of success that, the government agents are like, we got to recruit these guys who are the best thieves in the world? Like, maybe not.
It was funny to me how like, and maybe it's just that everything is more expensive now, but it's not like inflation. I mean,
inflation's not real. Too, right? It's not real. It's not real. We heard yesterday. It's not real.
Not getting into that, but yes, I mean, a good point of comparison is, the CEOs of companies like NBC Universal and Disney, they make more than $9 million in 1 year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And they don't have to heist a drug dealer in Brazil.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if he weren't such a polarizing figure, when maybe they could make a future Fast and Furious when like Elon makes that $1 trillion payday, because we all know that they're going to sell more Teslas. Like everybody on the planet's going to be driving a Tesla, and everybody's going to have Starlink, and everybody's going to have the robots and whatever, and he's going to get that $1 trillion payday. Maybe they heist him for $1 trillion.
That would be a good end. Yeah,
that would be amazing. The problem is nobody ever has $1 trillion of cash at one place. So
true,
and it have to be digital without being boring.
Yeah, well, they're all about hacking now. So what about this movie? I know that you mentioned some of it in your rankings before, but like, what about this movie resonates with you? Have you, and also in terms of the movies, have you ever thought about going back to 2, 3, or 4, knowing that you like 1 a fair amount and you love 5? Yes. Have you ever been curious to go back to 2, 3, and 4? And what about this one, in addition to what you said before, makes this your favorite?
Yes, I definitely have thought about going back to 2, 3, and 4. I don't have a good excuse besides just like I love movies, and I'm always TV. I'm always struggling to keep up with what there is, let alone to go back. That's my only excuse. But I will definitely do it. I'm totally curious. Especially, I will say I'm particularly curious about number 3 because of the story of it, because of the fact that it almost didn't even come out in theaters, and it introduces fan favorite character. Like I'm super interested, so I definitely will watch it. There were, like, as I was rewatching it, there were a few things that like stuck out to me. Like, all of the action scenes are good, like all of them. I don't think there's any of the set pieces from the very opening one when they get them out of the bus, to the crazy train heist, to just the race between like them in the police cars, all the way obviously to like, I still remember in the theater the first time seeing them pulling the safe down the streets and just being like, this is like the fucking coolest, smartest. It's so smart. Like, I can't believe somebody suggested this, and then the rest of the team was like, yeah, we're going to do it. Like, we're going to have them pulling, because to me, like, the gravity of it going back and forth as every turn they make, like, makes it so much more compelling than just the cars. Like, there's this whole other element to it physically that I think is brilliant visual filmmaking, and it is a great visual story. Like, Justin Lin does a great job with it. That's something that I love. Another thing I really appreciate on the second viewing that I hadn't thought of is that it has this structure that's kind of unusual for like a cheesy action movie, which is reminiscent of The Fugitive, which is that there's actually 3 like protagonist antagonists, right? There's our main hero, then there's the person who's chasing him, who is his antagonist but isn't actually a villain. Right, like Dwayne Johnson, we're rooting for Dwayne Johnson, right? Yep. Even though, he's trying to get our heroes. And it reminded me of, we're sort of rooting for Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive. We like him, even though he's trying to get Harrison Ford, right? The problem is that he's misinformed and like thinks that the guys have committed a crime that they haven't, right? And then there's this other actual villain off to the side, who the hunter doesn't realize is the person they should be concerned about until late in the film. And that's a tough balance to carry off, right? Where like the true villain is not our hero's antagonist for like the first 2 acts of the movie. And the movie has to show us, Vin and his crew, and Dwayne Johnson and his crew, and I forget his name, the Rio crime boss. You have to like sort of balance between all 3 of them. And they have to make us sort of like Dwayne Johnson, even though he's trying to stop our heroes from doing what they want him to do. That's a like difficult balance to pull off, and it's smarter than your average action movie. And I think the movie pulls it off so well.
Do you think we can ever get another? Because I think I attribute a lot of this to Justin Lin's vision. Do you think we will get anything like this again without Justin Lin? Like, it seems to me, I had a feeling like 9, 10, and 11 were gonna been like his second trilogy. You know what I mean? I think we were gonna get, what was it, 3, 4, 5, and then we were gonna get like 9, 10, 11, and then they had the falling out.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if like how much of this can we attribute to Justin Lin versus like the studio and Vin and things like that, because like Vin takes all this creative control, and like how much of it do you think, how is this balance gonna play out?
It's a great question. It's very hard to know like who gets credit for what behind the scenes. I mean, the fact that it's such a well shot film obviously is to Justin Lin's credit. Like it can only be him. But like that's sort of smarter than it needs to be and more thematically interesting than it needs to be story development. I mean, he plays a big role. You know, Chris Morgan is the writer who he became a writer producer, worked on a lot of those films. You got to give him some credit. And Neil Moritz as the producer, like he has to be on board with this stuff. So I don't know whether you can, you know, say if only Justin Lin had more control and had stuck with it, then this trilogy would have been like his earlier films. It's tough to say, but typically on a movie, even a big movie, like the buck does stop with the director. So,
okay,
you know, the most credit certainly should go to Justin Lin. And when Justin Lin either lost his creative power and was eventually pushed out, you know, that means that vision that we had for Fast Five is gone. I mean, that's undeniable.
Yeah, it's that was the saddest I think I've ever been in terms of like imagine the future of the franchise, where Joe was like, I'm really optimistic that 9, 10, 11 can be this new vision. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh well, here we go, and there's the ego in play, and what could have been.
Right. And look, and it's not even I don't mean this as a diss to Louis Leterrier, but when you bring in a director, like, you know, after
a week before, 2 weeks before.
Right. Like just as you're starting shooting, basically, like they don't have time to develop a creative vision. All they have time to do is like take the script and try to shoot it and like keep all these egos and these effects and this schedule vaguely, barely under control, you know? I will say, like, you know, they've had they're taking so long to work on the script, right? Like, they're very purposeful, explicit extension. We are not going to set a shooting date until we've decided we love the script. And obviously in the past, they've often said, we've already set the release date, and they work backwards from there. So I think they're very close, from what I understand, to like having a script that A, can be made for $200 million, and B, like they think is creatively good.
Amazing.
So that's a much better starting point than they've had in a long time.
And then in terms of what you've heard, does this sound like it will be the conclusive end of this run of the franchise? Or is it like, if it does well, then they will reconsider?
I think it will, the former. I think this will be the end of the end of this run of the franchise. Not to say none of the characters could come back. Right. But there is no way there's just going to be like a typical sequel where they're just like, okay, this is a hit. Let's do another one. Bring back as many of the characters as we can. Very unlikely that happens.
Yeah.
Because we feel too. Yeah,
we just want like something. Like it feels frustrating. Like that the same summer, Fast 10 and Spider-Verse, and there was another movie where it was just like, oh no, this is just half a story. Like you're gonna have to wait 3 or 4 years, and it's like, guys, come on. Like I know, like we're patient, we're like fans, but like come on. Yeah,
so that was the year of Dune Part 1, probably, maybe, right?
Oh yeah. Yes, that's what it was. I think so.
Totally. Yes, totally. But here's what I think: like this movie, if they cost 200 as they're promising, and it grosses, you know, 6, 7. If it grosses just what the last one did, if it does 7, like they'll be thrilled, and they'll be like, okay, let's figure out our next $200 million Fast movie. But they have to figure out what is it going to be, who's going to be in it,
right? Mm-hmm. Well, especially like I think they're going to have the added perk of like if they're able to market it as like the final Fast film. Then like there will be the push, as long as, you know, some creative directors who also might be stars of the movie don't go on the red carpet and be like, we're doing 2 more. It's like, well, you can't say that. Like the company line is just 1 more. This is it. Like let's just like push this. So
right. Or they're going to have to get out the word on the side. Like do not listen to what the bald man says.
Yeah. That's what we have the suspicion of a lot.
Yes.
Don't
like
do
when we
what
watch his
Donnie
Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 100%. Like he's clear. I mean, I don't mean this as a criticism. It's just a fact. If you look at what he says and what's happened, like he's full of shit. He's full of shit.
Well, Joe, can you show Ben the little slip of paper next to the computer? We have a list of all the movies that he's promoting on his Instagram that supposedly are in the works. The big thing, as I'm sure you might have heard of if you've seen any of his Instagram posts, he really wants a Kojak movie made. Like he is dying to get a Kojak movie made
forever. Yeah.
And as far as we can tell, they're not doing anything. There's no script. There's no movie. There's nothing. He's just like going on the subway in New York, like with a costume
jacket,
and a lollipop,
in a jacket,
and taking some pictures.
Yeah, I mean, look, guys. Here's the reality. Like, like in the past decade or two, like, what movies has Vin Diesel made that aren't a Fast and Furious and that he didn't basically finance himself?
Bloodshot, or did he do that?
I don't know if it's Bloodshot. All I'm thinking of is the Furious movies and the Riddick. And I know
Witch Hunter, which he does himself.
Well,
too,
Witch Hunter's
right?
now 11 years ago. Like that was 2015. But Bloodshot.
But he's pitching
came out,
Witch Hunter 2.
Yeah, I know. But Bloodshot came out the day COVID shut down the world. So like that was a
Triple
really
X.
kind of
Triple X.
Well, Triple X is now 25 years ago.
well, obviously, I'm not counting Guardians, which he does as
Yeah.
a voice for, obviously.
Yeah, that doesn't count. I don't care.
Bloodshot, what was up with the financing of that? And let's see, I guess, he did do that bad XXX Return of Xander Cage in 2017. So failed attempt to bring back that franchise. Then he got back to The Witch Hunter, which was 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he does very little stuff anymore. I mean, Hollywood doesn't want to make movies with Vin Diesel. Like, that's just a fact. Like, he's not a draw outside of the Fast and Furious franchise. And, he's a huge ego. He's difficult to work with.
Well, that's also a thing that we notice because every other week in between the movie conversations, we check his Instagram as one of our segments. And like when he posts a picture of him and Michelle Rodriguez, 2 million likes. He posts like anything else.
It does numbers.
Has like 100,000 likes. Like his fans want one thing from him, and that is him and Michelle Rodriguez on screen together in a Fast and Furious movie. Anything else, they're like, we'll support you, but like give us what we want. Like we'll buy it. Well, you can bide your time, but like we need more Fast. And so,
yeah, that's all he's got going.
What would you personally like to see in a final Fast film? Knowing where we've gotten to so far, what would you keep? What would you drop? How would you wrap up 25 years of history in a 2-hour, $200 million movie?
To me, the most important thing would be, and I don't know how you get there, like for them to be back on the other side of the law. Like that's what I love about them. And what I've loved about all the movies that I think are good is like, I think them like fighting against the system, and it's like their family against like the powerful forces of law enforcement, big criminal organizations, whatever. Like when they're backed by like the biggest, weirdest, most international spy agency in the world, like it's hard to take like the family and the crew like so seriously because they're part of this much bigger thing. So they have to be a unit that doesn't have that all the bigger forces are not supporting but are against them. So that's the thing I'd want most. I don't know how you get there exactly. And and I want to see some real stakes. Like I think that they could have some, I don't want to say have somebody die because we've seen that and they come back and nobody believes it. It's like a superhero dying, right? But
yeah,
that's the problem. But if they could have somebody like intentionally sacrifice themselves in like a meaningful way, like that like really ups the stakes of it being a family and also like makes it worthy of an end to the series, right? Where like you really care about these people, and they're a family, right? So it would make like seeing one of them sacrifice themselves for the others is what, in my mind, like family at its core is all about.
I think that there's both in my head. I think that there's a way that like we have to have Vin Diesel die and save the family by dying, and I don't think that Vin can kill himself in a Fast and the Furious movie and be okay with it personally.
It would go against everything I've ever known about Vin Diesel to be willing to sacrifice his character in a film and cut off the possibility of him coming back in some way, shape, or form. I think it would be very unlikely, but I agree. It would be tremendous. It would just be the best creative thing they could do.
So in addition to Vin Diesel, who obviously we know has to be there, which characters do you think are like a must-have for the next movie? Like who, if your job right now is balancing creative need and financial commitment, where do you put your money? Like how do you get to like 60 million or whatever in terms of
for the above the line costs
instead of 100, if you save $40 million or whatever, like who are you bringing in? Like how are you building your fantasy team here?
I'm going back to like the people who were there when they were outlaws, who are the core of the family, right? Like it's the Torettos. It's like Dominic and Mia, right? Vin and Jordana Brewster, and you gotta have Michelle Rodriguez, let's say, and Han. And then, I mean, that gets the question: can Roman and Tej still be entertaining in an authentic way, or are they just so ridiculous at this point that like?
It's a very good question.
That's Joey's point.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I love them when they're good, but obviously they have not been. They felt like so much of the franchise, they felt tired. Their shtick has gotten tired. So if it feels like a shtick, I'd lose them. If it feels like they can truly be the funny selves they were in like 5 and 6, then I'd keep them. The thing that you got to get rid of is what it feels like the shit that's been added on over the years. And I mean, this is no offense to the actors, right? But like, I feel no need to. I definitely don't need to see Charlize Theron anymore. Truly, I definitely don't need to see Brie Larson anymore. Like, no need. Look, Jason Momoa was the one fun element of Fast X, I will say. But like a lot, like characters like that are really fun, and then they don't need to then be part of the movies forever. Like Jason Momoa can come back, but like his hilariously basically gay performance in Fast X, like we don't need to see, like I don't need to see the same thing again. You know, it was great once, and I'd be happy for him to be gotten rid of quick enough or be kind of in the background in the next one.
What about Cristiano Ronaldo, who apparently is going to be in the next movie? Where do you see him falling into this thing? And I guess that's just gonna be a cameo. Like he's gonna be in one scene, like maybe playing like wherever, you know, he's gonna be like in a country, like in a dirt
wherever
patch
Cardi
somewhere.
was. Yeah.
Like
Cameo, fine. You know, I'm all for whatever cameos they can do in this film of superstars and people, if it helps the movies, especially if it helps the movies appeal internationally, given that it's going to be, not be a movie that takes place all over the world.
Right.
I have no problem with that. I just don't want to see all these extra celebrities who, frankly, like can't become characters because their characters are thinly drawn and they're so famous. Like, I don't want to see those people taking up too much time in the movie.
The thinner, the better, I think.
Yeah.
Trim the fat.
Yeah.
Joe, did you take notes? Do you have any thoughts from Fast 5 this time that you never thought before?
No, I don't have any new thoughts on Fast 5 this time. Anything that I said, I cut in. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Nothing, like, super fantastical. I was excited to talk to Ben about other stuff today, so.
One note that I took that we have not talked about yet, and I think we might have talked about it in a previous lap, I don't remember, though, is the beginning of the movie, Brian and Mia on the run, they get to Brazil, Vince takes them in. Immediately, Vince is like, I got a scheme, we can get money. And I know that his justification for this is like, look at you two, you need a good meal, you need to get paid, like you need a job. Do you trust Vince after not seeing him ostensibly for 10 years and all of a sudden he's like, I got a heist, I got a job? It's like, I don't know, man. Like that feels...
Are you a narc?
I don't know, because he's also like, later in the movie, he's like yelling at, where's Letty Dom, where's Letty, about don't trust Brian. Like it feels... like there's so much tension there that they're just like, no, let's whatever you need, Vince. It's just like, to me, I'm like, I get that this like gets it moving and I like the momentum of it, but I'm also, I don't know if I trust Vince after not seeing it for 10 years.
I think Mia has to trust Vince.
Maybe.
At the core, because like that's, she knew him as a child. It's like revisiting an uncle that you haven't seen in a while, right? She has an inherent trust. And to be honest, like we talk about in the first movie, he was the only one that fucking called Brian a cop, right? So like he seems like the most well-adjusted like moral compass. Like he seems like he's the one, like
that is a crazy thing to say, but I guess you're not wrong.
Like he's the one that smells out the whole plot of the first one.
Yep.
It's like, although he's exiled, like he didn't do anything wrong to them. So I think that you have to approach this with a level of trust based on their previous history.
Fair.
I don't think that it's that bad.
I will mention something that I don't know if you guys have probably talked about this, right? But that I hadn't thought of. I thought of this second time, which is that this big turn in the movie is premised on, after Dwayne Johnson and his crew capture everybody and they're driving them to the airport, taking them to the U.S., then Reyes and his crew attack Dwayne Johnson's vehicles, right? And that's how Vin and his crew get free. Obviously, Vin saves Dwayne Johnson, and Dwayne Johnson all of a sudden realizes Reyes is the real villain, and it's very key to the plot. And of course, I found myself asking, like, why does Reyes attack them? Like, if he had just let them go, they would have been gone. They never would have tried to steal his money. This whole thing would have gone much better for him if he had not tried to kidnap them from the U.S. agents.
That's the kind of thing where it's just like, well, it's a movie and it needs movie momentum or whatever. But yes, you let him go.
It's Vin going, if I was the biggest drug dealer in Brazil, I would crack them out of here. Just pure hubris,
It didn't occur to me in the first watching, because when you're reeling into it the first time, you just, those things gloss over. But sometimes when you're rewatching, you're like, you start to think about the plot mechanics a little bit more.
Yes.
And then you're like,
yes.
Wait a minute. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's also maybe he just has poor control of his men, and like he didn't relay the message to them, like, hey, actually let them go, like if they are in these vehicles or whatever, and they're like, hey boss, we got him. It's like, well, like they had a
like you don't think he had thought to tell them, I want to capture them, price on their heads. Not if the government's already got them. Then it doesn't apply. You think he forgot
loyalty, I think,
to include that addendum when he put a price on their heads? That's a good point.
Smarter
hope so.
henchmen. Come on, henchmen, though, are not
True.
necessarily the smartest.
They're goons for a reason. Ben, other notes, other thoughts about Fast Five or anything else? I want to sort of put like a little bow on the future conversation in a minute, but anything else specifically about this movie?
I think we talked about
Cool.
the key things I have to say about the film.
Before we wrap up the future of the franchise, are you ready to take a quiz and find out which Fast and Furious character you are?
Okay, I didn't know this was coming. Hit me. Let's do it.
So when we started the podcast, we found a quiz online that was fine, but we could make a better one. So we have a 7-question quiz. There are no wrong answers. It's all multiple choice. You can explain yourself or not. 7 questions, 6 answers per question. By the end of it, you will find out which Fast and Furious character you are. Question number 1, Ben, how fast are you? NASCAR, roller coaster, Lamborghini Murcielago, Toyota Prius, Vespa, or Razor scooter? How fast are you?
I would say roller coaster.
Okay. Question number 2, you know it's coming. How furious are you? The Hulk, Kylo Ren, Christian Bale on that one movie set that one time, Mel Gibson, Charlie Brown, or Jack McBrayer?
Oof, I'm afraid I have to say Charlie Brown. I think I definitely swallow my rage way too much.
Just having a football pulled out from under you, just like grumbling to yourself as you walk
Yes,
off.
I'm grumbling to myself. I am a grumble to myself a lot person. Yes.
Ben, we are having a barbecue. How are you helping? Are you manning the grill? Are you saying grace? Are you kicking back with a beer? Are you babysitting? Are you being the entertainment? Or are you sneaking a snack?
I am manning the grill.
Ben, you've got time to kill. What are you doing? Are you grabbing a bite? Working in your car? Hanging with friends? Drinking a beer? Working out? Or doing some work on your computer?
I am doing work on my computer.
I feel like the more people we talk to, like who are journalists or have a podcast, it's like, just
no, sorry guys. Yes.
No.
Okay.
It's like
it's really funny
that's
though.
the one. Yep. It's just like I'm doing work on my computer too. Like that's exactly what I'm doing. Then describe your wedding. I'm never getting married. It's just me and my partner. It's us and our families. It's a backyard country affair. Everyone I know is there. I don't remember.
Well, the reality is everyone I knew was there. What I wish for in hindsight was a backyard country affair.
Which one do you want, brother? You could take either or.
Okay, let's say my personality would be the backyard one.
Okay,
that's
cool.
Fair.
You just won the lottery. What are you buying? Your own garage, a private plane. I'm gambling it all away. My child at home, a fleet of cars, or a new life.
My own garage.
All right. And then what is your drink of choice? Belgian ale, Corona, something fruity, water, whatever's cheapest, or just, Joe's going to the bar. Get me one of whatever you're having.
Belgian ale.
Nice.
All right. You are a character.
I have no idea. This is a widespread. This was a very widespread for me based on the answers. Like generally, like we get like a couple that are like right in line. You had a wide gambit of answers for me.
Okay.
You are a character you've basically cut from the franchise. You are Tej Parker.
Oh,
You've got the heart of the racer, but the mind of a hacker, and you're equally as fascinated by the latest tech and how to improve on it as a classic engine. You don't shy away from the tough jobs, but you know you don't have anything to prove, so you're just as happy making sure your family has the things they need to accomplish their goals. Other people look at the big picture, but your strength is figuring out the details to make that big picture possible. And you drive like the wind blows.
Nice, guys. That fits. You know what? I was thinking at the end of Fast Five. Like I was like, I love that Tej is like just getting his own garage, and that's his dream. And I was really disappointed when those 2 escorts drive up with his crazy imported car. I was like, that's not who he should be. I was like, that's not who I would be. I'm disappointed that he's not doing what I would have done.
There you go. Perfect. I just realized, though, in putting this in, if you have time, we have a couple questions we ask every guest that I didn't ask you at the start because we jumped right into the money of it. But there are questions that are about the franchise that are not about the franchise that we don't have right answers. We will never have right answers to, but we need to ask everyone we talk to because we need to know what the reality of the situation is. So the first question in the first movie, if you'll remember, Brian and Mia are doing dishes in the kitchen after barbecue. Vince comes in drunkenly, starts berating them. Mia says to Vince, hey, Vince, what's the name of that restaurant you want to take me to? It's got the red candles. It's got the wood tables. It's got the picadillo. It's got the food all over the place. He goes, cha-cha-cha. And Mia says, okay, Brian, you can take me there. If we said to you, Ben, this is a great time. Next time we're in New York, we want to take you out to a restaurant. We know this great spot, red candles, wood tables, picadillo, food all over the place. You're going to love it. When you hear the phrase food all over the place, what do you picture? What does that mean? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Are you excited? Are you terrified? What does food all over the place mean to you?
That's such a great question. What the hell does that mean? All over the place. I am guessing that means it has one of those menus that's like has tons of random stuff in it.
Okay.
Like, I assume they don't literally mean like there's food on the floor and on the walls and such. Like,
I would hope not.
That makes no fucking sense. So I can only guess it means like there's a huge diversity of choices. It's not like your standard one type of cuisine menu.
Because we see the restaurant that they're talking about later in that movie, and it is the most normal, boring restaurant you've ever seen. So, like, we don't know what it means. We don't know if Jordana Brewster, like, messed up her line or whatever, but...
Yes, that sounds more likely.
Probably. But it made it to the movie, and that's the only question we want to ever ask her. If we ever talk to Jordana Brewster, we have one question for her. What does that mean? She's be like, I don't remember. And we're going to be like, cool, thank you for your time. Ben, in Furious 7, they are around the table, and Roman is regaling everyone with how he has saved the family time and time again, and he talks about how he took that plane out the sky, Babao. And Brian says, the only thing I've ever seen you take down is no knees Denise at prom. And he goes, really, Brian, you can do that here? If you hear someone describe this having no knees Denise, no knees Joe, no knees Ben, what does that mean to you?
I guess that their legs are so fat that the thigh and the calf just sort of like meld into each other with no apparent distinction. That's my guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Are there other theories? I mean, I would hate to think I'm going to assume that he's
promiscuous, not promiscuous, prudish.
No, he has no knees and her legs are always open. I guess it could. I hadn't thought of that. I hope he's not making fun of a disabled girl, right? So
we've heard that too. All right.
I don't know if you know King of the Hill, but you know I forget his name, but Hank's dad, right?
Hank's dad, that's right.
Has shins blown off in the war. Like we're just thinking maybe knees blown off. Who knows, right? So,
I hope not.
Okay, then later in that movie, they're at the party in Abu Dhabi when Dom and Brian are trying to steal the thing from the car, and Roman distracts the room the only way that Roman Pierce can by singing Happy Birthday to a stranger. Ben, if we say to you, we need you to distract this room full of strangers so that we can steal a part from a car, what song are you singing a cappella style that is either so good people can't look away or so bad they can't look away?
Oh my God.
Go-to karaoke jam.
Yeah, I hate karaoke. I do not do karaoke. The reason why my answer earlier was I sit in front of my computer is though I hate public attention.
Yeah, what song are you leaning into? Because you're like, we got $100 million, we got $1 trillion heist on the other side of this
I'm
wall.
trying to think it would have to be a song I'm really bad at. Like, what's a song that's like really got like some crazy notes that there's no chance I could remotely hit.
Something you'd sing in the shower.
Yeah, the songs I would sing in the shower to myself are like here's what I would say. I would sing Stacy's Mom, because I know the whole song.
Okay,
I know the
great.
whole song. Fountains of Wayne is one of my favorites. Yes, and I'm a bad singer, and I could screech it enough that people would.
Pride of New Jersey.
What the fuck is that guy doing? Yeah,
perfect. And then Ben, the final question we have for you tonight: do you have a favorite character? It doesn't have to be a character who's in Fast Five. Do you have a favorite character in the franchise?
We
know that you are Tej. We know
right.
That
I feel like I relate. I feel like I relate to Tej the most. So I'm actually, even though I say Tej at his best, like really is
boss
to me. Obviously, things get dumb in the later movies, but I'm going to say Tej.
Do you think Tej is at his best in like 2 or 5? Like what movie do you haven't seen 2? You might like 2 if you like Tej. There's a different Tej in 2.
Mm-hmm. I find him and Roman's like shtick is really fresh and fun in 5 and to some extent 6, and I love that, and yet I love that Tej he's good at the insults, but he's not the clown. Obviously Roman is the clown, and Tej just sort of is like up for playing with the clown, but isn't the clown himself, and that's what I like about him.
Perfect. Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining us. We're talking about Fast 5.
Thank you so much,
talking about the future of the franchise with us. What do you want people to know who are listening to this? Where can they find you? Where can they find your work? Do you have anything you're working on now that people who love these movies might care about? Anything you've published recently? I know you said you've been doing other stories since the one that we talked about, but what do you have going on?
Yeah, well, I'm still covering the entertainment business for the Wall Street Journal, and you can just obviously find my work there. I'm working on a bunch of big stories related to, the future of entertainment, the future of big companies like Disney. That's taking a lot of my attention now. Mm-hmm. And I'm not like a frequent poster, but I do have accounts on both Twitter and Blue Sky where I promote articles and also put up funny observations from like, because of my job, I get to go to movie premieres and award shows sometimes. And if I see a opportunity for a weird photo or like a funny thing I overhear, I'd like to post them on there.
Awesome. Very cool. And are you just Ben Fritz on there, or do you have a different name?
Yes. Yeah. I'm just at Ben Fritz.
Wonderful. Easy to find. So
Yes.
Thank you. Joe, our next episode is A Life in the Fast Lane. So if you want to write in, listener out there, email family@cageclub.me and we will get on it. But Joe, any final thoughts in this episode?
I'm glad we talked to Ben today. This was really good. I like talking to the guys that like know the kind of the behind the scenes things. So I was excited to talk to Ben, and I'm glad we got to talk to Ben today.
Yes, thank you once again, Ben. And for all things Too Fast, Too Forever, go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFastTooForever, or at TooFastTooForever on some of the socials. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at TooFastTooForever.com and our store at cageclub.me/shop. And come back next week for A Life in the Fast Lane, where we're going to see some drifting.
True.
I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too.
And that was Ben Fritz of the Wall Street Journal, and we will tell you all about it
when we see you again.